Welcome all. So my topic is to tell you a bit about what my perspective is on surveys. And I want to introduce myself shortly. So I'm a passionate sailor. I learned this on little wooden boats on the IJssel. And my parents owned a little sailboat on Mallorca. So that's how I came over here. I'm a passionate windsurfer as well, and sailor, and learned to start windfalling just recently, which I love. It's quite interesting but challenging. And what I love most is sailing the classic regattas here on Mallorca and Menorca. So that's my sailing background. My professional background is I worked as a travel journalist and traveled the world for the German TV station producing documentaries. And I did marketing and branding for a private TV station in Germany called RTL. Here on Mallorca, we did set up a company in the beginning called To Be Continued, which is a marketing, digital strategy and branding company. So we help companies to do better. And my yachting background is that I worked for Nautics Germany, Austria, and the Flensburger Yacht-Service on Mallorca as marketing, PR, and events. So we did all the boat show presentations, and I set up the office in Port Adriano 12 years ago. And our head office is now in the Baltic from the Flensburger Yacht-Service. There we do run two marinas, a shipyard, a winter storage, a nautic shop, and we are dealers of several yachting brands. And when they asked me to work for them as a yacht broker as well, I did a training at the MIBA Charter and Brokerage Academy. I guess you're familiar with MIBA, which is Mediterranean Yacht Brokerage Association. And that was really helpful. And so 2 weeks after that, I sold my first boat. So that was really good. And it worked somehow. And now I run the office here in Mallorca, and I set up an all-female team for brokerage and charter. And my biggest motivation is that I help find my clients the boats that they dream of, and I want them to know what they're buying into. And that's where you come in, because my recommendation to all my customers is do a survey, do it with a qualified surveyor, and make sure what you're buying into, and to not regret buying your new boat. That's where you come in, I guess.
Yeah. So what we're just going to do here, I mean, this is not a double-handed presentation, really, but it kind of is. I'm just going to run through what it means being a qualified surveyor, and just almost reaffirm the code of conduct and the different memberships. So I'm going to start now with the different memberships. The full membership, which many of you will be, is actually the most popular in IMS. I should have John Walker here, because John now sits on the Professional Assessment Committee. And if you want to know about how he goes about approving applications for full membership, have a chat with him a day and a half. But it's quite a responsible position. And as John, we were talking last night, and sometimes, somebody applies for full membership and they send in a tick box survey, which tells nobody anything about anything, and we can't possibly grant them full membership.
Sorry, tick box pre-purchase.
Tick box pre-purchase survey, which I think is dangerous. I don't know whether or not you see these at all, but we don't like those. Full membership. In fact, we quite often, as John will know, we might even push them back to an affiliate. And then it's for them to decide whether or not they want to accept that. So for me, it's all about, if you've got the skills and you've got enough experience and knowledge in the work you do, absolutely, then we're prepared to grant you full membership. But a number of people are quite surprised when two things, actually. One is they ask for full membership and we go back and say your reports are not good enough, you need to do some work on your reporting, come and join an IMS report writing course or whatever, but they're just not good enough. And so we will offer them affiliate membership, and most actually accept that, John. And they don't know they don't know as much as they think they knew. So I think that's really important, that you understand that there's that process. So, but full members, there's about 550, the last time I looked, full members in the organisation. And the description is applications from surveyors who meet all of the criteria below for full membership are invited from anyone who can prove they have practiced on a basis for a minimum of 5 years as a consultant or marine surveyor, individuals who, by producing written reports, can demonstrate that they have practiced marine surveying or consultancy for at least 5 years, individuals whose qualifications or experience shall be considered appropriate by the Professional Assessment Committee as beneficial to the supported institute. Full members may use the initial MIIMS after their names. And we then put a little disclaimer in that says, please note, being a full member does not mean a surveyor can survey all craft. And John will tell you, he sees applications from people who claim 25 specialisms. It's just not. Surveyor, and you say, actually, where's your skill set? Well, I don't do wood, I don't do steel, I do GRP. Right, well, there's your specialism, GRP. So don't say you can do wood. Oh, but I know a bit. It's not enough anymore. And if you think you're going to get away with it, you might once or twice, but you're eventually going to get caught out. So that's what we say to people when they come through the process: be realistic in where your specialisms lie. And at the end of the day, of course, as a member, we display your credentials on the IMS websites. We want to be as accurate as we possibly can be, otherwise I get loads of complaints, which I hate dealing with. There's obviously the fellowship level. I haven't touched on that, but that's an awarded grade and tends to be given to people who are that much older in the organisation and are given long-term service. So the associate membership is open to individuals who consultancy for a minimum of 3 years and who do not yet become full members. We've never made it mandatory for associates to upgrade. There's no pressure on people. Sometimes people who've been full members will come down a level to associate as they get later in their career. That's absolutely fine. So a number of people sit there and they're quite happy. Again, individuals whose qualifications or experience shall be considered appropriate by the PAC as beneficial to the support of the Institute. Now, technician membership is one of our fastest growing categories. And people often say, well, what does technician mean? And of course, technician is somewhere where people can slot in who are perhaps not true surveyors in the general sense of the word. So it's open to individuals who hold a recognised qualification, for example, inspector level 2 or higher with NACE, Brosio or ICOR, RMCI, which of course we run through the Marine Surveying Academy, a bit more on that tomorrow, the ERMI standard, NDT technicians, infrared thermologists and so on, those type of people. Other surveyors, at least 3 years full-time practical experience in a marine-related field. Technician members can use the designation Tech IIMS. I'll talk about it a bit more tomorrow morning. We run a very successful program, which some of you may know, for INCA, the International Marine Contractors Association, which is the ECMID accreditation scheme. There's 800 people who've come through that process now. A number of those people have become technicians. So essentially what they are is they're auditors. They're auditing ISM. That's what they're doing on offshore assets and vessels. And we've been able to grant them technician membership, and none of them have taken it up. Also have corporate supporting and so on. But supporting membership are people who are not currently. So it's slightly odd one. So when we get an application from somebody who says, oh, you know, I want to go and look at a big, large yacht. I say, well, do you have any experience? Well, not really, I'm learning. So we'll encourage them to join as a supporting member. No time limit on that, but it gives them the opportunity then to learn, attend some events, perhaps find a mentor, someone who can help them. It's worth now just coming back to the affiliate membership. We have a number of members who joined as an affiliate, and have been affiliates ever since. And we decided quite recently that that probably is not a good idea. It doesn't show that someone is really progressing in there. So we have made that a mission to try and upgrade. And indeed now, years I think it is, they'll be charged the associate rate. So there is an incentive there for people to upgrade. In our opinion, we don't think you don't meet the criteria of the associate or the full membership. So I'm as an affiliate. learn the trade, gain your skills, extend your knowledge, and then we really encourage people to upgrade. As to a broker is CPD, continuing professional development. And again, we've never sought to make that mandatory in IIMS. And I sat in a board meeting some years ago, and I remember saying, as a board, what do you want to say to members? Do you want to say, big stick, you must do CPD or else? I said, we'll lose half our membership. Or do you want to reward the people? Decided that rewarding people was a much better thing to do. And many of you will have got your 15 points for the year. By the way, if you're a member and you're here today, don't forget you can claim 5 points using the app. Do that because it's an easy win. And you then will roundel displayed on your listing. Now, this is just me as an outsider looking in. If I was searching for a marine surveyor and I found 10 surveyors and the first 4 had a green roundel and a tick alongside it, saying, fine, I might start my search with those people first. That's purely, I'm just trying to understand how the consumer psychology works now. When you're looking for a surveyor. I don't know, just my opinion. So we don't make it mandatory, but we do encourage CPD. And Anja, about half our members do CPD. What is the job? We don't think of CPD as doing your day job. We think about it as learning new skills. You know, lithium-ion technologies are changing, coatings in the world is constantly moving. And he said, I don't do half the things that I say I do anymore. He said, and I'm not competent anymore to do them. It's 20 years since I did that stuff. So he said, I need to revisit my listing. He said, on the other hand, I now do this, this, and this, which I learned in the last 5 years. As individuals, you're constantly evolving, developing new skills. And again, I could go on and on. That's probably enough for now. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I've said enough. I'll shut up. Back to you, Anja.
I won't become a member, so.
Yes.
Well, that's why my technical background is not that good. So
You're like me. See, I'm not technical.
okay, so
I'm the least technical person in this room, by the way. Yes, yes. Just
Welcome.
thought I'd throw that out.
I don't think so. I'm here. So I just wanted to present this Baltic 87 we sold lately, and it was a German owner and an Australian buyer. And this boat was built in '96 and had a big refit in 2017. And this Baltic was a challenge for the Baltic shipyard in the building process because the first owner came from the car industry background. And he requested a carbon yacht with full hydraulic hardtop, lifting keel, James Bond style dinghy garage, and a lot of extras. So the super yacht was far ahead of her time in 1980. And the interested buyer was an Australian, and he told me that for him buying a yacht in Europe, not having seen the boat before, it was felt like a big black wall of uncertainty because he was not knowing what he's buying into. And for him, the most important thing was to find someone to trust within the process. And therefore, we had some calls. And for him, it was super important to have a surveyor he could trust. And I want them to be sure what they're buying into, as I said before. And as I don't have this technical background, I always need someone to have a look at it. So, and make sure they know and are aware of the costs there. So this was the dinghy garage, which was pretty challenging in the construction because also the hardtop was lifting and it would disappear while sailing. And therefore, they had to construct this arch for the main sheet, and because of the whole hull was pretty difficult for holding all this weight. And if a buyer has no clue what the boat is like because he's not able to come, and of course he wants to have someone to trust, and he felt super relieved getting to know us here. to feel like we are really trying to help him through all the process, guide him through the process, and help him get to know the boat best. And therefore, also, I would like to explain you a bit about the brokerage process, because an owner needs to trust first us as broker to sell his yacht in his best interest. So this is the owner side. And so I have to get to know the yacht, to do a market research, to price the boat well, and compare the markets, to position the yacht, check the actual offers on the market and pricing of sold similar yachts. Before then I draw a listing agreement. I have to agree with the owner on the asking price, get all the papers and the VAT documents needed. And sometimes they're not available, and then we are not possible, that it's not possible to sell the boat, or it's really hard to achieve to get all those documents. Then we have to write a detailed technical specification of the yacht, which also is a long process to get to know all the specific things. And then we do photo shooting and Photoshop the existing pics, film videos, edit them, and upload the yacht on all relevant yachting websites. And then we start promoting the yacht. So we do the newsletters, the ads, the boat shows, social media, everything to get it out, the boat on the market. Then normally we have to answer 1 million questions of potential buyers and send out specifications. And then we have most of the times before viewing about, we do research about the potential buyer. And then we have the viewings, and we have to prepare and check that the boat is ready to be seen by the potential buyers, because sometimes the boats are definitely not into shape, and we have to organize all this. And then we show the boat, sometimes several times, and in the best case, we negotiate a deal. And before the survey, we have to draw a MOA, the Memorandum of Agreement. Normally we use the MIBA one, and get it signed by all parties. And then once the down payment is on the broker's account or escrow account, we start organizing the sea trial and survey. And the hardest thing is right now to find dates when the captain, the surveyor, broker, and buyer are available within the MOA timeframe, because right now it's almost impossible to get a lifting schedule with all the boats and works going on right now in summer. Then we organize all the paperwork for the travel lift, the payment of the deposits for the travel lift, and we organize the downwash, sufficient days on the heart for the humidity test, because almost all of my clients want to know if there's osmosis, and then they do the anti-fouling, and normally we do the sea trials afterwards if it's a motor yacht. Because then the speed test is better performed after the anti-fouling and being on the heart. Sometimes we need to organize the official power of attorney for the captain. Then we meet the client, meeting the surveyor, going for the sea trial. Afterwards, we do the hole out, the first humidity test. After 3 days, the second humidity test, anti-fouling back into the water. So we have to schedule the timing, and then we await survey. And after the survey gets handed out to the client, and the client most of the time sends it to us because he needs explanation, because sometimes he doesn't understand all the issues. And there's several versions of it. It's all perfect, no major issues, we can close the sale. That's my favorite version of it. Then we do have the minor issues. We do the problem solving, some little repairs, and we close the sale. Also good. Then we have C, major issues. Then we have to request reliable estimates for the issues found. And then we have to renegotiate the pricing, organize the repairs, who covers what, and then we close the sale again if they agree on it. And D, major issues, no agreement, back to point 7, start all over again. Least favorite version. Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you give us some wording on a major issue? What is a major issue? How do you write it?
Well, like now we do have a major issue because we put a boat on the heart, and while putting it on the heart, a crack appeared on the hull, and because they put the wood in a delicate place, and they did not know that it was sandwich construction. So when they opened up to repair it, they found out it was repaired before and it was badly repaired. So the client wanting to buy a good boat, he now feels like it's a damaged boat. It's like buying a new car and a car that has had an accident. So for him, he refrained from buying the boat. And that's...
Do you use the problem, I mean, what words do you use? What would you like to see?
In the report?
Yeah.
Well, that was even before the report. I haven't seen the written report because it just happened last week. And yeah, like if it's safety and if it's a really costly thing that no one expected before, I think the major issues is everything that's not cosmetic and not to be repaired easily and will affect the value of the boat on long term.
Do you always try to put a value in your MOA? Breaker, if it's below that value, something that can be repaired and dealt with?
No, we don't put a value, but I come to that later on because I have extracts of the MOAs and of the agreement. So for you to understand how it's written. Yeah. Welcome. So after that, if they agree on it, then we can close the sale. The final payment is made to our account, and also we have to advise the banks to, sometimes we have the money laundering issues and the payment got delayed, and within the time frame set in the contract, sometimes it gets a bit tricky. Then we have to deregister the yacht. Normally the owner has to do that, but sometimes it takes ages, and we only can close the sale finally and pay the money to the seller once he has the registration papers officially of his yacht. And once we receive the registration, we can transfer the funds to the seller account. And a lot of times we help the buyer to set up a company, register the yacht, pay the VAT, find a mooring, find a captain, all the things related for them to have a good start with their boat. And then we prepare the handover for the yacht with all paperwork included, and check it and made them sign that everything was fine. And then hopefully the yacht is sold, and we can take the yacht off all our websites. And why I'm telling you all of this, because I want you to understand a bit the work and effort we put in before you come in. So of course, for us, it's a long process. First, finding the boat, listing the boat, trying to find the right customer. And once you come in, of course, your part is to let the buyer know what he's buying into, and to have a realistic idea of the status of the factual status of the boat.
Is there an average length of time that this process would start to take for someone buying a yacht? How long?
Well, the survey is only reports with all the issues found to prove that they are worth their money. And therefore, when the clients start reading the reports, they get scared because they find out only at the end of all the issues found that in the end it's a good boat. But first he reads all the minor issues, bigger issues, whatever. And yeah, so that's best case. So sometimes it might be helpful to have a little short summary in the beginning, that they're not going through all those things. They, oh God, oh my God, and then find out. Yeah.
Not always just right reports with all.
Yeah, of course you need to do this because it's important. They need to know. No, I just say that I asked other brokers to find out what their opinion is on this topic. So that's what they came back to me, and several of them did it. So I just wanted to get it out. I haven't had this case, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's I agree. But we actually do talk to our clients first and assess.
Yeah, of course.
I've got a client yesterday who is a first-time buyer. Now I relate very differently to him than I did by both previously.
Yes,
so
of course they know what.
a lot of information.
And you need to explain better.
into account.
Yeah.
So an old boat that's built in the 80s, we tell the customer, we're going to find issues with it. We are going to find issues with it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, the way that I do my report, I put the summary first, and then I put the
Yeah, that's
and then I put
helpful.
the recommendations A and recommendations B. Recommendation A being something that they should definitely take into account.
Yeah.
Recommendation B is something in the future.
But that's something that certain surveys do differently. And,
Yeah.
yeah, and then the client sends a report to me and say, "Oh, I need help."
Yeah.
And I normally the best would be if you do a sea trial, and you're on with the client and the broker normally to just do a quick debrief after the sea trial, so that everybody knows where they're at, so that they have at least a feeling: is it a good boat? Are there major issues coming up? Or just for everybody to be on the same page and not just to open the report without any further introduction to it. And then they're like a bit, oh my God, what is this, all of this? And then they need to understand that it's mostly cosmetic or...
Exactly, yeah. I always recommend that the owners on the sea trial that we do if possible.
Yeah.
And often it's not.
And then they get a good feeling about the boat, and then
the
they get to know you, they know that they can trust you, and then they understand better. That's super helpful for us as brokers as well.
Yeah, the buyers on there.
Buyers on the boat.
You prefer that?
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, the buyer.
Just to give some personal impression on the unit of the boat, of the yacht, or rather to put what we see, what we find. Personally, that this is the major defect, this is the minor defect, because from technical way, this is our role, yeah, to show you the minor defect, but impression or the no opinion.
Yeah,
this
it's
is
factual.
the major rule.
Yeah.
What about the
John and I were talking when we had dinner last night about you must surely say the good things that you see in the boat. You're not just there to say all the bad things.
Yeah.
And there will be plenty of good things to say about the boat. And then you're giving a balanced overview, aren't you? You're saying it's a good boat, maybe, or not, but there are some challenges. So you surely got to say what's good about it. Kim and Bob, I know you wanted to speak.
Not find anything to say.
Oh,
Find nothing good about this boat.
Often, I've never seen a broker on a survey. Often seen owners,
No.
potential buyers. Potential buyers quite often slow you up in the survey.
Okay.
To spend a lot of time with them, but often you'll find if the owner accompanies you on the survey, the report is the defects.
The buyer.
Well,
And quite often the buyer will, on that, just decide whether or not he's going to buy the boat. If he decides not, he's not really interested in it.
that's why we normally as brokers, well, I try to be there always, if not one of...
Never seen
that's weird. Where are you working?
it. In New York,
But I'll try to be there because, of course, the buyer is also my client, and I want to understand where he's at during the sea trial. I want to understand where the boat at and what's the communication between you, and also if you need to work, I also can entertain the buyer in the meantime. So that's part of my job. So to have them next to me and to guide them through the process. That's what.
That's an intrinsic concept you said that the buyer is your client, which will be
Yeah, but for me, I feel like most of the time, both are my clients. So the one wants to sell the boat, the one is buying the boat. I want both of them in the end to have a fair agreement on the boat. I'm not working on this only seller's account, and if the buyer needs to be happy with the boat ever after. So I want them to also recommend me. So I want both of them to be good.
It's fine if it's both people.
Okay.
In the central part of the trial.
Again, sorry.
Sorry, the brokers and customers
Mhm.
who are the people who.
I don't know how other brokers are doing their work, so I just can speak for myself. Yes.
Yeah, I think a lot of brokers.
Yes, please. I'm happy to hear. Competition.
Can I just come in again?
Yeah.
I think that it's great that the purchaser is on the boat, or the sea trial has said, and I think it's, if the owner is on as well, that's fine. And the broker, it makes a good. If the purchaser is around for all of the survey, it does delay you a lot of the time, and you have to in the end, especially if the family is there and it's a couple situation, it's very distracting, and I explain to them that there's so much. I will tell them every few hours how it's going. And owner around necessarily, the purchaser is my client, and therefore I have to be very careful what I say to the owner or to the broker about outside of that relationship. The survey is the way that I see it.
That's true.
And it's very important that that's maintained. Especially after the boat's been lifted and you turn it off. States as a client beforehand that I don't give verbals. They have to wait for the report.
Okay.
Because so many you can say something, well, it looks good. It does, every time you say something, like it looks good. Look good doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
So how you express yourself, it's very dangerous. Now I always say that you've got to wait till the report, and the report taken into account with the recommendations and carry out. They need to get quotes, then they've got time to get the quote. Whether they're not pressurized to do it because the contract date finishes a few days after the survey, that they're not pressurized. Give them time to do that, and that works. It's full, but often they don't understand that process, and often it's not explained well how that ends up for the amount of time that they need.
Buyers there, or the broker, or the owner can be. You put under pressure to give a quick estimation of the
I make the comment that nothing is fixed until I have reviewed.
Yeah, you have to review your data.
Yes, sometimes I find things in photographs
Absolutely,
the
Kim.
day after.
Yeah, yeah.
And I go,
Yeah, definitely.
so I'm really careful to say
Sure.
to the people, not final until it's actually in written form and in your hand.
Of course, the side. Those, we're all, you know, we all want the broker and the surveyor. But for the, you know, big pressure to give a condition during the survey is about moving on. You know,
Totally agree.
Yeah, most of the time it's not like pressuring, it's just to get a first feedback to understand if the condition is like all like nothing major, then for me it's a first relief to know, okay, the boat, the sale might proceed. It's not for me to tell it to the client, it's just for me to know what would be the next steps. And if I know then that the engine has a major problem, then I know that's can be a major issue, it will take a long time, and just for me to go ahead.
Everything's fixable.
Yeah.
Everything is fixable.
Depends on the money.
So just picking up, Tim, on something you said earlier about the executive summary, whatever you want to call it, at the start of your reports. And underwriters who openly said, we only read the executive summary. We base our decision on what's in that executive summary. You send me a 60-page report, I'm not going to read it. I'll under executive report, which is going to be half a sheet of A4.
Yeah,
Maybe
if you do an
300 words.
insurance survey as well for an insurance company, every 4 years or whatever
Yeah.
is required.
And it's
Then they'll ask for that because they just want to read.
and it's sad that you spend all this time producing your 60-page report.
But you still do the recommendations afterwards, so they'll read the summary and then the recommendations, and then they'll read, that's it. You know, that's what they turn off.
They even have the template, they are giving you a template of 60 pages of 100 pages. But this.
So that executive summary is very important to people. It really is. And if they don't read anything else, question.
The amount.
Lots of photos.
I like photos. They're taking a lot of space.
So I saw a report recently from a agent, and he had sent in a 136-page report for a 10-meter boat.
I wouldn't like to work with him.
And 80 pages of photographs. It
Well,
was a photo gallery.
that's time
Very dangerous. You've no idea what you're displaying in those photos either sometimes. You know, you're showing a something and you didn't spot something.
We did some time ago. The surveyors would provide a link to a cloud where all of the photos are,
Yeah.
so that your client can go and look at them all.
Yes. Don't do that.
Yeah,
Keep,
I don't do it as
keep
well.
your photos for your own records. Keep them for 7 years or whatever it is, but no, really.
Relevant to go in the report. You don't need to show that God. You need to show the 5 or 6 or 3 things that are wrong.
Pressing a bit here, but it is an interesting line of discussion.
Okay.
The number of times we see where someone has lifted content from the manufacturer's brochure. I can't see the sense in doing that. It's not relevant. You know, the boat might be 20 years old and someone's gone and dug out something from that document 20 years ago and put it into the report. It doesn't, in my opinion, their relevance. There are some older surveyors who are not experienced coming into the industry. Justify their fee by producing a big long report.
That's what I said before.
And I don't think that's what it's about. If you produce a nice, clear, factual report that works for everybody, and everyone's happy and they'll pay your fee. You don't need to be justifying your fee by producing a huge report.
Schematic of the through hole fishings in the manual, then you
Nice marketing blurb about, you know, should have said to Anja, when you get a room of 10 surveyors together, you're going to get 10 different opinions, and none of them are necessarily wrong. They might all be right, but you know. So.
Let's face it, everyone is individual. We
Yeah.
have individual reports, and then also people come to different surveyors because they know they get different reports potentially. And if someone only wants to read the conclusion, so be it. It's up to them.
Yeah, exactly.
But I've seen a lot of reports where I've also been asked for underwriters and others to look through, and I'm not just reading the conclusion.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you're making an evaluation of a report, so that's also.
The owner's reps on big boats.
Mhm. Coming.
Looked into it, and also I know about, because we do digital marketing and we work with artificial intelligences, and of course they get all the informations from all over, and if you read through them, they seem pretty accurate sometimes, but if you dig deeper and you know what you're talking about, you know that this is bullshit, that it's really not, well, because it collects all the information about different boats, but yeah, not working by now.
The other day, I just.
Yeah.
My report said, please assess for clarity and legal peril.
Okay, and okay,
Truly scary.
yeah,
But it was interesting just to play with.
yeah,
I
it's really
just said some
interesting.
stuff you might get.
Yeah. We've done a lot with it now, and yes,
See what it can.
yeah,
But clients like to do it.
yeah.
That's the thing.
GPT and opportunity in lots of ways, but I just butt in. Some of you know, because I was talking to you earlier, that Salcombe is my Shangri-La down in the. Going to Salcombe, it's just delightful. It's a sailing centre and it's just fabulous. My two best friends who I've known, I can't believe it, nearly 60 years now. Yes, I really am that old. And they live down there. They've been there many years. And I was down there recently, and we've got talking about ChatGPT, and they haven't really heard of it. So I was sort of explaining the virtues of it, and they said, "Wow, so it sounds dangerous." And I said, "Yeah, a little bit dangerous, maybe." So I was down the following morning, and before they came down for breakfast, I asked ChatGPT to write me a poem about Salcombe. And he sitting there at breakfast, and I said, "I've written a poem for you this morning." Said, "Mike, we didn't know you had such hidden talents and hidden depths." And I said, "Oh, but did I write it or did ChatGPT write it?" And they said, "You are joking." I said, "I'm not joking." So it just goes to show what the power of this.
If you need text to be written like
Yeah,
then it's good, but if you need factual information to be correct, then you better double check.
You can't fact check it easily. That's the point, isn't it? It's the fact checking afterwards, what it spews out.
For a poem, it would be super nice, but if you really
Easy
get
for a
on
poem.
to
Easy for a poem. Yeah. Anyway, we should get back to your presentation.
Okay.
Andrew.
So, a quick contractual side of the sales. So, I have some extracts of the MIBA contract here. I don't know if you're familiar with the parts of those contracts. So the MOA clauses is the sea trial that normally has a maximum of 4 hours duration. Can you mark that? No, you cannot. And normally it says that the after the sea trial, the buyer has 24 hours after the sea trial to state whether he's going to proceed with the sale or not. Therefore, it's super important to have a timing on the report when the sea trial was happening. And
Specific equipment, which I have, like oil samples, which
yeah,
customers want. It's
this is
impossible to do.
the long run, yeah. But normally, if we do first all the inspection on the heart, and you did all the testing needed, and afterwards you do the sea trial when the boat is back into the water. So that's something it's in the contract, but most of the time, speaking with a surveyor, we get the time frame, and then we communicate it to the seller and the buyer, and normally it works out nicely.
It's very important, Anja, that the surveyor gets a copy of the MOA.
Yeah.
Before the start of the survey, so we're aware of what amendments or.
Yeah.
Because quite often, if you haven't done that, I've been caught out before, obviously years ago. Hours to report to the whether he accepts or rejects. You know, that too short a time period.
But
This is-
there are two things. One is to walk away for any reason. The other thing is you've got structural issue on the boat, and you can say basically.
Yeah, that's not two different time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One is, that's why a lot of brokers insists if we go with the MIBA contract to do first the sea trial, which quite honestly is a pain.
But
The
the other
other
way
is
around.
decide, does he continue with the survey, and if it goes on, then he has accepted it, and you continue. But if you then find a structural issue, then that's a different. You
Sometimes.
insist on the
No,
MIBA
sometimes.
contract, you first
Yeah.
have to do the sea trial.
But there is an issue with
Yeah,
this clause.
Don't know,
Up
yeah.
to you, but
Yeah.
You always find
that's the
that.
contract.
That's a classic
The
one.
contract, that's it.
I was going to have this contract changed. I've seen it loads of times.
Decide he doesn't like the color
Correct.
and reject it
For
on the
whatever
basis
reason.
of that.
I often think that's written in there like that. For example, if the buyer comes sea trial and it rolls. How can we get out? I think that's put in there for people like that sort of situation.
Yeah.
Ideally, there will be two.
Most of the time we do agree on the terms and on the time frame, that because it has to be available and everybody has to be able to perform and to make up their decision. Of course, they have those clauses to not extend it more than needed.
And one question, is there anything like a standard procedure? Do surveyors do different things, or is it all more?
Well, the boats are different, so of course you have to do different
No,
things, but the standard procedure is normally the same, that if you have a multiple, you have to warm up and then you do the different RPMs.
I mean,
what kind of
would some surveyors say, well, we have to go full speed for an hour?
No, that never happened to me, at least. But
German sea trial.
I've been.
I built the mast for a boat and built it out. They forgot to tell us that we were going to be at sea for 3 days.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
I didn't have a toothbrush. I've seen enough.
That should have been noticed. Was quite before. Yeah. True. Yeah. It says maximum 4 hours. And if they agree on something else, they have to communicate it, of course, also to you as a survey.
But maybe there are some points like must check. Maybe you have some. The sea trial, which need to be.
Well, for me, always the important thing is that all the technical parts, like the generator, the engines, all stabilizer, all the things that I can look at but have no clue if they're working or not. So the most important to me is that all the technical parts are covered and checked properly, and during the sea trial at the different speeds. So that's something that's most important to me to know. And the rest we find out later on the hard, to find out if the hull is okay and has no issues.
It's an interesting question, I feel.
A guideline for this type of things.
Good idea.
We really.
Yeah, the crate, it depends on the type of boat.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go out 4 hours and get the target.
No.
No.
What are you gonna do? So
Also, if you have small boats, like we just had a sea trial in a Riva, and well, it's a day boat, and you cannot spend 4 hours sea trialing a day boat. It's small.
It's not there, and you're just doing it with someone driving the boat. That's it. Wants to have lunch and he wants to anchor, and then he wants to go there.
Have 7 days in which to produce the surveyor has 7 days in which to produce the report.
That's normally the time frame that we
Well,
give,
let's
because
say
I think that's
because one day for the buyer to decide. So 7 days is the time for the buyer to decide and to communicate. So the takes and.
yeah, that's just up to the sea trial. If there's something major coming up and they decide not to proceed, then yeah. But once everything is surveyed properly, normally there's a time frame of 7 days. I suppose everyone is happy if it's delivered
Is that
earlier.
7 working days or 7 days?
I was going to say the same thing.
Now you're splitting hairs, Mr. Houghton.
Quite often.
Yeah.
You've got lots of reports.
So
Is it 7 days or 7 working days?
it's not specified here. So
Working day.
we, to say it positively, it should be 7 working days.
You're telling us there are some days you don't work.
Not on weekends.
Many.
I think those are, well, the report will be handed out to you later on. So if you want to run through it more in detail, but this is in the end, the condition survey is like those are the points I told you before from my point of view as a broker. So they say it won't proceed if they don't agree on doing certain repairs, if they don't agree on a certain price reduction after finding issues, or if they don't agree on the period of the works to be completed. So those are the things that the agreement shall be terminated, and that's then it's done, and we have to start anew and determine the contract here. And then we also have to discuss often, do they have to pay the anti-fouling for or not, and all those little things, and then in the end to send money back to the potential buyer who's now refusing the boat. And also a part of this here is that the broker is not held responsible for the written report by the surveyor. And because normally we are not allowed, and that's here, we are not allowed to recommend a surveyor, and as they might be acting in our interest to sell the yacht. Therefore, I normally do send the buyers a list of surveyors on Mallorca to choose from, and then they are gonna select them if they're available, if they think the website appearance is nice, or the estimated costs. So the buyer has to decide it for himself, and we shouldn't be involved.
How do you choose your list?
I recommend it.
I normally have a list of I think 10 surveys with the links to their websites.
Yeah.
And then they can choose from it.
And do you welcome other approaches if Darren were to knock on your door tomorrow and say, oh, yeah, I'm a good local surveyor and can I get on your... There you go, Darren.
So, yeah.
How to be in the top 10.
And bar checker.
Sopot. Sopot, Gdynia, Gdańsk.
Okay, yeah.
Two ports.
So he's up in Poland, so you could recommend a Polish surveyor.
It's a bit expensive for my occupancy files.
I'm only joking, but it's a serious question, because certainly in the UK, on the south coast of England, where you've got hundreds of brokers and you've got hundreds of surveyors, how on earth you draw up a list to satisfy everybody, I really don't know how to do it.
Well, actually, that's answered on the previous page. It actually defines whose day-to-day business is occupied with the surveying of vessels of similar quality to.
Yeah,
I suspect most brokers probably don't adhere to that in the UK. So a lot of underhand stuff goes on in the UK, I think, still.
You're selecting your surveyor.
well,
Would you be interested to know whether, for example, he had liability insurance, or he was a member of an association?
it sounds more official. They have a official stamp or belong to an association, because then we would expect them to be trained well and know what they're talking about. So this is of course, additional plus, but some of the buyers just bring their own surveys. I've never heard of them before, and because they're free to choose, and they can do the Google Internet research and come up with a survey here. and then I don't influence that. But if they ask me, could you recommend me someone on the island? I should say I'm not allowed to recommend, but here's a list. So that's how it goes. So that's why I'm here.
At some point, somebody's gonna bring this up, but there are brokers out there who demand a commission from surveyors.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not good.
And some of them are not just here in Spain, but in Holland, in Germany.
Do you think I can earn some extra?
Distasteful, and I
No,
have ended up as not talking to people who were formerly. If my reply is standard, I'm sorry, I'm independent,
Yeah,
and you know, you're compromising my independence.
yeah, absolutely. Dangerous territory.
There's some brokers that
I always thought that it should be impartial.
I know, so some brokers deserve the way because it's not
Yeah.
They do.
really.
It's a bit of a hot potato this time,
Exactly.
Anja, and
Yeah,
yeah,
I did learn about.
yeah.
There is
I think
a lot
I'm
of
pretty naive on
interplays.
this. I just want a good survey done, and I want my client to understand
Yeah.
about the boat.
Yeah.
So no.
But it's similar to the case like the insurance companies have. Check the, let's say, vehicle or the yacht, or I need to check them in, but okay, I refuse this, I refuse this, I refuse this. It's not very. All the insurance companies, and that's why also.
That's why they're free to choose for themselves.
Yeah, of course, this is.
But of course, if they ask for recommendation, because like it's an Australian buyer, they have no clue of the people working here, and they can then say, hey, here's a good surveyor, and check them out. And because I know they're trustworthy and they do a good job, of course, I can say that because I worked with them and I know that they do good reports. They are really into detail, and
Understandable.
yeah.
We also get some appointments from. I'm calling, oh, we got the recommendation from this, and starting the the discussion with this this sentence that we got the recommendation.
So then you made a good job before, and they recommend you.
That's good, yeah.
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 Good, but top one.
Yeah.
On this page here, you put the
This is a standard contract.
limits here on the survey should be deemed to be completed immediately for a physical inspection by the surveyor.
Yeah.
And when you're physically doing this. My service to the customer is not complete.
Maybe your IAMS should talk to me about.
I have spoken to me, but actually, but it's 5 years ago,
Yeah.
and this has just made me think that we ought to have another.
seeing the MOA is really important. Act as if they are the principal.
Yeah, but also sometimes well, if we lift the boat and the surveyor has seen the boat before in the water, then he can take all the details and let's say robot test and to already have everything in place before doing the sea trial. So the sea trial is the end of it, and you also already did most of the survey beforehand. So after doing the sea trial, you pretty much know the state of the boat, and it can be assessed. So
Sometimes that way, it doesn't
yeah.
always work.
No. So it has to be adapted. So I'm pretty flexible of that, and you just need to. That's why I think a dialogue is super important, because you need to tell me how you would do the survey and what's your time frame doing it, so I can communicate it properly and everybody's on the same page.
I think that's really important, because we have our own contract with the client as well.
Yeah.
Who signs the contract saying it's going to be the report.
Doesn't meet these terms.
Up to 7 days.
Need to have a dialogue with me, but which I will do.
Like it's nothing more likely to induce errors in our report than time pressure.
Yeah, I agree.
You
I
know,
agree.
I always say to my clients that the report will probably be finished Monday, but you won't get it until Tuesday because I want to sleep on it.
Yeah,
And then I want to read it again
yeah.
Tuesday morning before I send it to you. Because I hate sending any kind of mistake.
yeah, absolutely.
So time pressure, probably the wrong thing.
Yeah,
And the boat and the bigger the value,
higher the pressure.
it's the higher the pressure. So no, I agree entirely. Yeah, okay, I'll take that.
So
Not
Then-
trying to slow down the process. Sure that we're correct.
yeah, that's why I recommend doing a survey, because I want the process to be done correctly. And so back to the topic from the beginning, what a broker expects from a survey is technical competence and knowledge. That's what's, I think it's given if you're part of your IAMS. And giving confidence to the potential buyer means he has to trust you as a surveyor to do the job. And that's something I would love to have a short debrief after the sea trial. That depends on every surveyor if you like doing that, but that gives confidence and feedback for everyone to be on the same page. This is a communication I'm talking about that's helpful to everyone. It's not that you're already giving out something in written. And a coherent written factual report delivered on time within this time frame set before. And the categorization of the defects found correctly to make it easy to understand. And also explaining the report properly to the buyer and if needed to the broker, because our job is to explain it to them if they still have questions, and sometimes they don't even dare to talk to the surveyor again. That's happened several times. And then for you to have an understanding of the sales survey negotiation process. So that's why I think it's good to understand both sides. I, as a broker, need to understand your part of your job and what it takes for you to do your job best. And of course, for you to understand what we would love to have are what we love to understand during the process. And yeah, so also feedback highly appreciated.
Yeah.
And so you want to say something? Or
Yeah,
we...
just John's mined the IMS website and they came up with the code of conduct. I don't think I've ever read that in front of a group of people before, and I wonder when the last time anybody read that was. So I thought it's only 2 pages. I mean, we've got 5 minutes before some coffee. So let me just read what the IMS Code of Conduct says, because it is worthwhile just reviewing these things. So professionalism, a member must have a sound foundation in the general knowledge of his or her profession, in addition to appropriate and adequate experience. She must keep up to date with his or her technical training and knowledge. Good stuff. Objectivity. A member must adopt an impartial and objective approach in all aspects of his or her marine surveying work. Independence. A surveyor shall be independent of the client commissioning the survey. Integrity. A surveyor will not be influenced by outside pressures. Seek to reach agreements based on objective conclusions. And a surveyor will not make personal or illegal profit from the sale of damaged goods or materials. Client relations. A surveyor will never bias or modify his or her professional opinions for personal gain or in response to any form of pressure from whatever source. Will obtain from a principal clear terms of reference and confine his or her report to the agreed terms. A surveyor will only undertake to carry out assignments for which he or she is properly qualified for a particular assignment. Will accept arbitration when all parties involved agree to this method of solving disputes. Recognise that his or her first duty is to his or her client's instructions and endeavour to sustain an open relationship with the client, preserving professional integrity. Members of the IMS are expected to abide by the Institute's Code of Conduct at all times. Surveyor will cooperate with colleagues to achieve a complete and objective survey, will not allow agreements reached by a surveyor in charge of a case to be modified by the direction of any organisation to which he or she belongs, will not criticise a fellow surveyor or colleague to third parties, will ensure strict confidentiality of information received from third parties who are not involved with the case in hand, will not carry out seek to achieve full cost recovery, will discuss with other attending surveyors any contradictory statements or differences of opinion before issuing a final report. Standards. Where recognised international, national or local survey, these standards shall always be observed. Any variation from the together with the surveyor's reasons for such variance are to be recorded in the survey and the principals agreement obtained. Non-compliance. A surveyor will bring to the attention of the Institute instances where members of the Institute are not observing this code of conduct. We've had a few of those, you may not be surprised to hear. Personal conduct. A surveyor will not practice during a period when his or her judgment is or might be impaired through any cause, and will endeavour to avoid actions which lead to the discredit of the Institute, marine surveyors, and his or her own professional reputation. And finally, the relationship in the code and the membership of the Institute. When the Institute is informed of a member's non-code of conduct, this will be investigated, and the member given the opportunity to offer a defence or appeal. Depending on the extent of non-compliance, a member suspended or permanently withdrawn. Minor failures will be dealt with by written warnings. However, repeated minor non-compliance can be considered grounds for suspension or expulsion. Do a thorough job. Don't let things outside get in the way. Be careful with third parties. You don't know who's around the boat when you're surveying it either, do you? Somebody listening there, and if you're talking, which is why I always think dictaphones, great though they are, you know, you're talking into a dictaphone and there's another surveyor working for another party standing 10 meters away, listening to what's going on. I mean, it's just, you've no idea with that stuff. You don't know what's happening. So I hope that's helpful. Sense?
Perhaps one of the things that should come under technical competence and knowledge
Yeah, it's critical. And I've got a case that's just brewing. I won't name who it is. You probably wouldn't know them anyway. It's in the UK. It's going to turn into a complaint. And the person's just written and said, well, I've read your terms of conduct. Crikey, who on earth does that? He said, and at this point here, the surveyor I've just engaged hasn't done this, hasn't done that, hasn't done this. And 10 times now, no response. He's just left it. He's just said, doesn't matter. Got his money, done the survey, not interested anymore. But that's go to mediation, we can mediate. Karen. It does happen. You know, it's difficult, isn't it? And communication is, for some people, is a challenge. Not a good communicator. The younger guys in the audience here are learning your trade found that useful. I mean, there's some good stuff in there. And just remember, you know, if somebody gives you 10 euros and said, could you change your report to say this? Don't be tempted.
For 10 euros.
I promise you, it will happen. It will happen.
And just hire for a boat. Did not suit that boat, or vice versa, the boat didn't suit the buyer.
Mhm.
Selling the boat. If you saw
Well, I
it
just
wasn't gonna match.
that's what I have this lovely boat at the show. You can come and see us. You're invited. One more. And I love that boat because it's so special and it's a beautiful boat. And there was a buyer wanting to go for that boat, wanting to put her in charter in Ibiza. And I was like, no, not going to happen. It's like, I feel like, well, normally you're not attached to a boat, but this boat is pretty special. And if I think they're not a good match, I'll try to not, but I cannot jeopardize the sale because, of course, the seller's interested in selling the boat, so I cannot tell them off. But if I have someone else interested in buying the boat, I would prefer them to find someone who takes good care of this little gem and loves it and puts effort into maintaining the status of the boat. So that's me. That's not something general speaking. I don't know. Yeah.
Any final points, Kim? Yeah.
Notice you. How many other brokers out there I have?
Oh, because I know that I think it's important to know what you're talking about, but I'm not a technician, so I cannot. I know all the MIBA terms and contracts, and I know how to deal with certain issues, and that's also experience you learn while working in this. But I cannot tell if I don't know if there's working as a broker. You don't have to have certain. You don't have to.
In Germany, I think, and in Holland, you do have to have a.
But normally they don't survive for long.
No.
Well, I think it would be also nice to have something similar for brokers to be a qualified broker.
Of course, it's exactly the same with surveyors. I mean, there's no barrier to the surveying profession. I mean, rather worryingly, I've been at this nearly 10 years now, can you believe it? And I'm not technical, as I've said, but I know enough now to put aside. But it wouldn't be very good. But there's no stop you doing that. I think it's ridiculous in this day and age, absolutely absurd that there's no regulation or something that says, you know, you need to have got a particular badge, which is why organizations such as IMS and others around the world as well, of course, you know, add that extra value. But it is truly frightening. And certainly in the UK, we know of a number of let's just say people who take an early retirement and are doing a bit of surveying for PIN money, don't know, just to supplement their pensions, and they'll get out of bed and they'll go and do a survey for €300. There's a bit of PIN money, and I think that's simply unacceptable, but you can't stop it. There's no educate the buyers that they should look for a surveyor from INS or a similar type of organisation. At least they know what they're getting. And if you choose somebody who isn't a member, then that for me remains the holy grail and the one nut I would love to crack. But it's a big nut, and not sure I've got enough time left in me to crack it. Doing this work, frankly, shouldn't be anywhere near a boat, but they are charging money for it, and I find that truly scary. Of course, eventually they get sued, and you know, they're closed down, and that's it. But they've given surveyors a bad name. Lives at risk, and I think that's a really important point.